you have said repeatedly you were the Deputy Prime Minister when offshore processing was legislated. Now, just because I know you want to apologise when you make mistakes, you were Deputy Prime Minister between June and September 2013. The offshore processing was legislated in August of 2012 when you were not the Deputy Prime Minister.
No, I haven't said when it was legislated.
Yes, you have. Yes, you have.
Ray, it was when the agreement was done with Papua New Guinea under Prime Minister Rudd. That's what occurred. That's when Prime Minister Rudd and myself at a press conference said that if you come to Australia by boat, you will not be allowed to settle in Australia. That was when that policy came in.
Offshore processing was legislated, as I'll show you now.
If people smugglers seek to take advantage of an incoming Labor government and do send more boats, will you be tough on boat turnbacks and will you consider an offshore resettlement deal?
We'll turn boats back. Turning boats back means that you don't need offshore detention.
OK, well, you corrected that one. Let's get to the next one. Economics. Yeah, go on.
That's what the government itself have said, Ray, that they haven't put people into offshore detention because the boat turnback policy worked. We support boat turnbacks. We support offshore processing. We support settlement in third countries, and we would have done the deal with New Zealand that was done far earlier and not implemented by this government until just before the election.
Well, let me just say this to you. You would have heard this many times. I know you're a listener. I played that day after day after day, sometimes twice a day, when you were in government previously. Now, you just said you support boat turnbacks where possible, offshore processing. What sort of visa will you give the people when they start arriving sometime in June or July if you're Prime Minister? What visa will they get?
Under what circumstances?
Well, exactly the same circumstances when I blow that horn. There's a boat off northern Australia. OK, it can't be turned back, so they come to Australia. They are.
Well, they won't come to Australia.
Where will they go?
They won't come to Australia.
Where will they go?
Settled. Well, Nauru, offshore.
What? They'll go straight from the boat to Nauru, will they? Good luck.
Offshore.
Good luck.
Have the same.
Anthony, you know.
We will have the same policy as the government has, right?
No, you won't, because you won't have temporary protection visas because you're terrified of what Christina Keneally and Penny Wong will do to you if you do have them. You know the only way to stop the boats is to have a three-pronged attack. What visa will you give these people? What visa, Anthony?
We won't give them a visa.
What, you're going to take them straight from the vessel onto another vessel and take them to Nauru, are you? Is that what you're going to do?
They will not be allowed to settle in Australia.
But how are you going to achieve that?
They won't be in the same way that the government does.
They give them a temporary protection visa because they can't access the immigration system with a temporary protection visa. You'll have to give them a bridging visa.
It's not right.
Well, how are you going to physically, all of a sudden, Border Force, they ring up the Defence Minister, Richard Marles, God spare my days, they ring him up and say, oh, mate, Christina, Home Affairs Minister, we've got a boat here. Take it to Nauru. Tow it to Nauru. That's just fanciful.
The same policy that exists now, Operation Sovereign Borders, will apply under us.
No, it won't, because you don't have temporary protection visas.
Yes, it will.
No, it won't.
Yes, it will.
I lived through it, Anthony.
Ray, temporary protection visas are there for people who've been here for prior to 2013.
No. Look, you don't call it Operation Sovereign Borders, invented by Morrison in concert with Jim Molan, because it's not Operation Sovereign Borders, along with Abbott.